How many of you have experienced culture shock every time you have traveled to a different country or even moved to another place? In this episode, I would love to share with you what were my personal culture shocks that I experienced here in Turkey. Remember that every person is different and we experience different things. That's why maybe to some people they didn't have a culture shock in a particular thing, but in my case I did. So remember that this is my personal thoughts and I would love to share it with you. This is something that at the very beginning took me a bit of time to get used to it. But to be honest, this is something that I really love the most nowadays. Many of you might already know about this custom, but in case you don't, I will explain it to you. Turkish people, before entering their house, they always take off their shoes, and they are also expecting that their guests will do the same before entering the home. This is why every time you have the chance, and hopefully you do one day, if you get to visit one Turkish local house, you will see that they have a lot of slippers in the house, so also the guests can wear them. And these are terlik. This is how we call them in Turkey. This is in order to keep away most of the bacteria and dirt that we bring from outside through our shoes. In the American continent, we have the habit of entering everywhere with the shoes on. We don't really take them off before entering someone else's house or even our house. But now that I really think about it, I do not see myself entering to someone else's house with my shoes on. That really saves you a lot of time, especially in cleaning the house. And for example, in Turkey, as you already know, carpets are a main accessory in houses. That way also they can last longer and you don't have to clean them that often. The prayer time was something very different and new to me at the very beginning. I am a Catholic, and in my home country, we were used to only listening bells coming from the churches. But here, the first time I heard the azan or the prayer, it was something so mysterious and different that I couldn't believe it. Even I could, to be honest, at the beginning, I was just wanted to go and sit to the balcony and enjoy the prayer, and I was wondering what they were saying. Now, of course, I already got used to it, but at the beginning, it was something out of this world. And I will not lie, but in my first months, getting used to the azan, especially the morning one, it really took me some time because, of course, I wasn't used to it. And the earliest calling to pray, it's around 5:40 to 6:40 in the morning. So for the first month, I was all the time waking up. Right now, I got used to it, of course, after 6 years, so I don't even hear it, even though I have a mosque just right next to the building I'm currently living in. This one I haven't really experienced it that often in Istanbul or even in any other bigger cities. But I remember when I used to live in Ordu, which is a very small city in the Black Sea region, sometimes I saw people throwing some water after the others were leaving their house. And at first I thought that probably they just wanted to keep their main entrance clean. But after asking to some of my Turkish friends and even my husband, they told me that it is the way that when a relative or a close friend leaves their house, is a way to wish them luck and to wish them a good journey or travel. They even have a saying in Turkish, su gibi git, su gibi gel, which in English literally means come as water, go as water. So if you ever experience this one in Turkey, don't get scared and don't think that people are being rude towards you or that it's something strange. This is the way they are wishing you luck and they would love to wish you also a happy travel. Probably this has been one of the biggest shocks we have all had at some point in Turkey, and I will talk about these particular toilets. These are the squat toilets, and I can still remember the first day I saw one for the first time. I remember I was in my way to Ordu after the first week that I spent in Istanbul when I first arrived to Turkey. I was taking a bus for 14 hours to that city, and in the middle of the night we just stopped somewhere, and it was like a 10-15 minutes break so people could go to the toilets. Then to be honest, I really needed to go to the toilet as quick as possible, so I was just running to go and look for one. And I remember that there were like 3 or 4 doors, and then I go open the first door, and oh my god, there was that strange toilet. I couldn't just believe myself. I was like, what? I mean, seriously, how the hell am I gonna do this? Even I imagined myself falling in. But then I said, okay, there are two or three more doors. I bet there might be a normal toilet there. I opened the second door, it was the same. Then the third and the fourth, and it was exactly the same. So I just said, okay, don't worry, just be brave enough, just roll up your jeans, and that's what I did. I literally felt as a Spider Woman. But that is an experience that I won't forget ever, and I still laugh about it even nowadays. But I will be very honest with you, and this is something that in present times I always do. At least when I'm outside and I have to use the public toilet, I tend to look for the squat ones because I believe and I feel they are a bit cleaner than the normal ones because you don't need to touch or you won't feel like, okay, this might be dirty. I prefer using those ones nowadays. Of course, I already have practice, so for me, there is no problem. But if it is your first time coming to Turkey and if you think they only have squat toilets, don't worry. They have both types, and even in the touristic areas, in the modern houses, everywhere you will find the normal ones. But there might be some places that you might find only squat toilets, especially in smaller cities. But you will always find places where they have both ones, so you don't have to worry. This is something that we already know that Turkey is one of the countries where people consume a lot of black tea. And this is something that as well took me a bit by surprise at the very beginning because I didn't really know how to do it with this tea thing. For example, here you will see Turkish people that they will be drinking tea, doesn't matter the time or the season, even though it's boiling hot outside, they will be drinking tea and boiling tea. So I don't know, I mean, they really love it, and it is also a good way how they can go hang out. Let's go have a tea. It's a saying, let's go have a beer or let's have a coffee. For Turkish people, it's mostly tea. Even after any meal, they will all the time offer you some of these. And also, even here in the Turkish culture, it can be a bit disrespectful when someone offers you some tea and you refuse it, especially when you're visiting some families. But this is something that even in the present times, because I'm not a lot of a tea person, I prefer more coffee or just water. But here I have learned how to drink more black tea. But that is something that at the very beginning it took me time to get used to it, especially in summer season. This is something funny as well that so at some point you will see in Turkey, and when many people are drinking this tea and it is so hot that you will listen some people drinking it like and they believe, I don't know, I feel like it's a way maybe they will control the temperature of the tea and they won't get burned. But still, even though I do that a few times, still I burn my tongue. I just need to wait a couple of minutes until it gets cold. This one also, it can get you by surprise, especially if you come from another country or in your culture you're not used to this, and when you try to keep some personal information to yourself or only to share it with family or closer friends. But here in Turkey, I mean, people are so friendly. This is something that I really love about the culture. When you start meeting new people, when Turks especially, they are so interested in your life. But at some point, they start from the very beginning, they start asking you some personal questions, and maybe some people might feel it as a bit intrusive, but they are not being rude. This is just the way they are, and they are lovely, they are friendly, and we just need to accustom ourselves to their culture. At the end of the day, we are in a foreign country, and we just need to get used to their customs and the way they are. But yes, at the beginning, just get ready with that. Some people might ask you, for example, since the very beginning, from the very beginning, what are you working at? What's your salary? What about your parents? How much are they earning? Or stuff like that. So just get ready with that. Don't get offended. It's just the way they are. This is another funny thing that happened to me, and I remember a month after I moved to Turkey, it was the holy month of the Ramadan. So I remember that it was also, I was already sleeping, it was in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden I heard a big drum just like playing. I got so scared as soon as I hear it, so I had to run to my window just to see what was going on because I was confused. I didn't know what was going on or the reason for that. I just saw a man there walking and playing the drum. At the next day or early morning, I just sent a message quickly to my husband and I asked him like, I heard the drum. Do you know what's the reason for that? And then he explained to me that in every year, in every Ramadan month, every night at 3 in the morning, 2:40, 2 in the morning, there is a person passing by in every street, in every neighborhood, playing a drum. And this is a way to wake up the people who are fasting to consume the last meal of the day because they will spend a whole day fasting. So this is a tradition that has been going on for centuries, and even nowadays in many places they still keep using it. So this is why right now, after many years of living in Turkey, every year, maybe for the first week while I get used to it again, maybe it might tend to wake me up. But after that, I can sleep normally and I don't even hear it. So if you're spending your holidays here in Turkey and maybe you're staying in a very local area and you hear this drum, don't get scared. You already know that this is a tradition taking place during the Ramadan season. This was probably the one that shocked me the most once I was living already in Turkey. And I'm pretty sure that if you are an expat yourself living in this country, you have experienced it at some point. If you're somewhere, let's imagine that you're in your place, you're at your home, and all of a sudden you will hear tons of cars all together honking at the same time. This can turn so loud and noisy, and at the very first moment you might wonder yourself what is going on. Is something bad happening outside or something, because it's strange to us. But in reality, this is the groom and the bride who are going to their ceremony and they are announcing to others their happy moment. And at the same time, their family members and the closest friends are escorting them to the ceremony day. I personally experienced this too during our wedding day, and it was something so much fun and unique that I will never forget it. Another thing is putting some money inside some envelopes, because this way there is also the tradition that some people, and especially children, when they hear the cars honking, they already know that the groom and the bride are driving by. So they immediately run towards the car and they are trying to get an envelope. So that's why if you are attending a Turkish wedding and if you have the chance of escorting the family, you will also see this. In every country, people tend to have their own gestures and body language, and in Turkey is not the exception. So here it really took me by surprise because everything was so different. I remember when I was, for example, with some of my Turkish friends, it was also my very first weeks. And when I was offering them, let's say, some water, and they were just like that. So for us in my country, it is like some yes, or just moving the eyebrows means like yes. But here that means a no. So sometimes I was bringing water and they were like, but I told you no. I was like, but for me this is yes. It was so confusing. Also, they tend to say like, this is like, okay, what are you trying to tell me? But now, of course, I know all of them, but at the beginning, it was so confusing. Another funny one to me, and even still, but this is one that I love a lot. When a person sees something that maybe it's not normal or they do not approve something that another person is doing, you suddenly will listen this noise. And this is so funny because sometimes you are in the public transportation and if someone is doing something that is not cool or is not good, you all of a sudden will hear like 2 or 3 people at the same time like. So if you ever hear this one, it's that there is something bad going on. So try to pay attention to that one. This is something little, but that for me it was something very different from my culture. And I will explain to you about, let's imagine if someone sneezes in public. Well, in my country, in Mexico, we are used to say bless you even to strangers in outside on the street. If you see someone sneezing, of course we will say bless you and the person will reply with a thank you. But here in Turkey it's totally the opposite. The culture is different and usually people do not say these things to strangers on the street. Usually is with colleagues, with friends, with family, with any person that you already know. So I am a person that I'm used to say even bless you if the son sneezes. So at the beginning, I just try to hold myself not to say it to strangers like that. But of course, now I got used to it. But at the beginning, it was a bit hard for me. Another funny thing is that, for example, let's imagine you're going in a minibus. There are many people inside, and the bus driver at some point will ask everybody if there is someone who needs to get off in this particular bus stop. But if he asks in a group, and if nobody answers, that means a no. At the beginning, it took me by surprise because, of course, I didn't know about this. And the driver asked something like if somebody was getting off in that bus station, and I just replied, higher. And everybody just looked at me like, oh, why did she reply? And it was something funny. Later on, some people told me, no, actually, it's something that we do when they are asking to a group. We do not really give a reply if it's a no. Only if it's something that, okay, we are gonna get off, for example, then yes, we say, evet, var. But not like if it's a no. Later on, I learned, and now I do not do it anymore. So these were my personal culture shocks, and I know everybody is different. And if you're an expat living in Turkey or also a tourist, but you find out that you had some culture shocks, please make sure to share them in comments below. That way we can have fun and we can just tell each other our stories. So thanks a lot for watching our video, and don't forget to like it, to share, and to subscribe to our channel. This way you're also helping us to reach more people that would love to see content like this. See you next time. Bye-bye. Well, in this video, I would love to